Welcome to the interview with Russell Earl Magowan. This is part 10, and you were talking about working traffic signal repair.
Yes, I had mentioned about the big van that they had on each corner on Pico Boulevard. Well, the object of the vans was to modify and bring up to date the signals between the Civic Center and the ocean all the way down Pico. And we did. There were 3 vans at the 3 intersections, and then they moved down to the next 3, and so on, and we finally got that all done. So then they transferred me to the Valley Yard. When I went to the Valley Yard, I still had the same helper and the same maintenance laborer, Townsend and Miller, but I had a big, heavy truck, and it was a heavy one and hard to ship, and they wouldn't drive it. So I had to drive it to the job sites, and we'd go out. We were putting in brand new intersections. This is when I really had to shoot pipe under the streets and lay everything out, and also to do the work. But anyway, I was there at the Valley Yard driving the truck, and then I made probation. I got over probation, and the day I got over probation, the next day I went into the Valley Yard. And I'm walking up to the truck. All the trucks are lined up. The crews are all going to go out. And I'm lining up to mine. Buzzy, he was on the next one up. But anyway, I said to Miller on the way up, I said, Miller, you're the helper. Starting today, you're going to drive the truck because that's the helper's job. So I didn't say any more. And I went up, and I didn't get behind the wheel. I got next to Miller. He got behind the wheel. I got next to him, and Townsend sat next to me. And Miller backs up. He starts out the yard, and he's going along, and he ain't saying nothing. He looks like he's real mad. So I says to him, what's wrong, Miller? You look like you're upset. He says, you SB, and he called me an SB. He said, well, why? Why are you mad at me? I said. He said, because you told me to get my big, fat, black ass up here and drive this truck. I said, I didn't say any such thing, did I, Townsend, to the other black man across from me? He said, you sure did. So I knew where I stood. They were both going to lie. So we went out to the job site, and we're working along, and pretty soon Smith, he was the foreman, come out with his white shirt, tie, and his car, all clean and nice, and he parked. And he says, Magowan, I want to talk to you. Well, Miller went down to a phone and called him. And he said, Miller called me and said you talked to him kind of weird like. I said, yeah, what did he say? He says, well, anyway, I'll have Miller come down. So he had Miller come down, and Miller got in the back of the car. I was in the front, sitting in front of him. He said, what did he say to you, Miller? Miller says, he told me to get my big fat black ass up and drive the truck. And I turned my head and looked at Miller and I said, you're a damn liar and you know it. And so then Smith says to me, well, I don't know. He says, that's a little bit too much. He says, we'll talk, we'll see about it. See me this evening, and let's back on the job. So we both went back to the job. When I went in that night to the yard, Smith came over to the truck and he said, Magowan, come around back to the building. I want to talk to you. So I went around the back of the building with just him and me. He said, look, I went out and I saw Buzz because he was there, and I asked him, what did Magowan say to Miller? And Buzzy said, you told Miller you're starting today, you're going to go up there and drive the truck because that's the helper's job. The exact words you said, so try to forget the whole thing, will you? And I said, yeah, okay, because I knew where he stood. So I did. I just forgot about it, didn't let it bother me anymore. And from then on, why, we didn't have any more trouble. Those guys did their job, except once in a while. One time we were out on a job site digging a big ditch 12 foot long to lay the track down in to shoot pipe, and Townsend just stood there and didn't do any shoveling at all. And I was taking 10 to his 1 shovels. And I said to him, you know, Townsend, do you think possibly you could take 4 or 5 shovelfuls to my 10? And you know what he said to me? He said to me, you dirty son of a so-and-so, I hate your guts. I hated your guts from the first day I saw it. He looks right at me and he doubled his fists up. So I looked him square in the eye and I said this to him. You know, Townsend, that's just the opposite of what I ever thought of you. I liked your face the minute I saw you. And he he didn't know what to do. He kind of put his fist down and he kind of forgot about it. I think he wasn't expecting that. I didn't let it bother me a bit, like he was the man. And then he started digging, and he started digging a little better. And and then the crew went pretty good. We put in quite a few intersections, my crew. It cost $125,000 to have a contractor come put in an intersection, and my crew would put in the whole thing in 3 weeks. So I saved the city an awful lot of money. They got the money out of me because I did the whole thing. I did everything. I laid out everything, and I took complete charge and took the blueprints out with me and everything, and I didn't have any trouble. So I'm working on a job like that, and one day the senior foreman come out, and he's looking at me. He said, "McGowan," he says, "how would you like to be a TSR man?" And I said, "Traffic Signal Repair." I said, "I'd very much like to be." He said, "Well, okay, we got an opening. You can be Traffic Signal Repair number 56 in the East Valley." I said, "Okay." He said, "Start tomorrow." So I went in at 11 in the morning. I got in a van that had a ladder, a hydraulic ladder on it that would go up to get to the mast arms, and I went out and serviced signals by radio. I had a two-way radio in there, and whenever I get a call, all signals out, I'd race to that intersection and get it back in operation. This was a very nice job. I didn't have any foreman. The foreman, he was downtown, and I'm in the valley. I'd never even seen him. And I'm more or less my own boss, and I worked from 7 to 11 at night. The only problem, there's always problem, was the man that relieved me at 11 o'clock, he'd been around a long time, and he liked to drink. So he'd get drunk, and he wouldn't come in, and I'd be waiting around 11 o'clock, and he wasn't there. So I'd work all night. I'd take his shift too. I couldn't leave it without nobody there. So I got quite a bit of overtime and time off for the overtime, or time and a half pay, which was pretty nice. And then I got to working evenings, and in evenings I got 10% night differential the last year I worked. And while I'm there, I got divorced, by the way. I wasn't there very long, and Lorraine wanted a divorce. She wanted to be clear of me. So, and this had come up before. I hadn't mentioned it, but I wanted to keep the family together. I was very, very much for keeping my family together, not having them without parents. So all the children were now married and gone, except for Denise. And she was about 14, old enough to probably understand. So she was living with her mother in the apartment. And so I would go up 2 and 3 times a week to see Denise, and Lorraine was very nice in allowing me to see her. And I taught her how to drive my convertible car. I had a little convertible, and I taught her how to drive, and she got her license. And I used to go up with maybe 20 or 30 bucks in my wallet, and I'd always come home with no money whatsoever. She always needed some little thing, which I always got for her naturally. And I got a place at a boarding house in Burbank. I found a boarding house where they fed you and you could have a room. And I think it was only $25 a week, and it was real good food. And I enjoyed that. I liked the family. They were real nice, and there were other men there upstairs. They had cots, maybe 8 men, 8 cots. All of us slept, and it was nice. And I'd have little Tomcat. I called Denise Tomcat, and I'd have her come down, and the people would treat her real nice, let her eat there and make over her. So that was a nice arrangement with Denise. I was real thrilled and happy.